You've been searching for the best way to generate passive income in your life and heard that real estate is a great way to do it. But you're tired of all the so-called gurus who are all talk and no substance. Get ready to celebrate because Kevin Buck has spent 14 years successfully making it happen. This is the Real Estate Investing for Cash Flow podcast. Now, here's Kevin Buck.
Hey guys, Kevin Bupp here, and I want to welcome you to another episode of the Real Estate Investing for Cash Flow podcast. Our mission is to help you build and maintain massive amounts of cash flow through income-producing real estate investments. Now, our guest for this week's show is New York business icon Gary Green. Now, Gary is the founder and CEO of Alliance Building Services, one of the largest privately held building services providers in North America. Now, in addition to his business endeavors, he is also the principal owner of Baseball America, CEO of Alliance Omaha Soccer Holdings, which is part of the United Soccer League. He's CEO and owner of the AAA Omaha Storm Chasers, which is an affiliate of the Kansas City Royals, which he also purchased from Warren Buffett, which we'll talk about here today. And he's also a general partner of the AA Richmond Flying Squirrels and the Montgomery Biscuits. Now, Gary is the son of prominent New York City real estate owner Stephen Green, but don't let that fool you. Gary built his fortunes on his own 2 feet, and he worked his butt off to build Alliance into the company that it is today. And now, even though this isn't one of my typical real estate investment shows, I'm 100% positive that you'll find huge value in our conversation with Gary. Now, here's what you're going to learn in our call today. You're going to learn the problem that Gary identified in his early 20s, which ultimately led him to the starting of Alliance Building Services. You'll learn how he found a niche within a competitive market that has allowed him to land some of the largest accounts in New York City. You're going to learn how 9/11 impacted his business and the steps he took to maintain throughout the chaos. You're going to learn how strategic acquisitions of various service-based companies has allowed Gary to grow his business much faster than if he would have allowed it to be organic growth. You're going to learn why Gary feels that hard work paired with a keen sense of timing and the confidence to execute at the right time is the recipe for success in any venture. Gary will also share one of his biggest fears and the steps he's taken to avoid this fear from ever coming to reality. You're going to learn how he ended up as a principal of multiple minor league ventures, and throughout one of these acquisitions was able to befriend and do a deal directly with Warren Buffett himself, and much, much more, guys. And so with that, I'm excited to get onto the show with Gary. But before we do, I have a few quick housekeeping items I'd like to run through. First and foremost, like we do every week, I like to share one of my personal bests and professional bests from the prior week. Now, this past weekend was the annual National Offshore Powerboat Races that came to Clearwater Beach. They come each and every year. I don't know how many years they've been doing it, but for as long as I can remember, they've been coming here once a year to Clearwater Beach where I live. And so I took the family and a few friends out in our boat, and we anchored up and got a front row seat to the super fast and loud action. I mean, nothing like being less than really 100 yards or probably even closer than that away from boats with 2,000 plus horsepower, probably some over 3,000, going at speeds in excess of 150, 160, 170 miles an hour. Okay, my two boys, Jackson and Julian, absolutely loved it, and it was a great time. Just a very enjoyable Sunday out in the water. As far as professional best, well, we just wrapped up the last leg of our National Mobile Home Park Tour last week, where we visited communities that we own in Indiana, Kentucky, Mississippi, and Alabama. And this trip was in preparation of us bringing the property management of our assets away from our third-party management company back in-house to ensure better overall quality control on everything from expenses, the renovations, CapEx projects, collections, and the list goes on. And we're super excited about what the future holds here, and we feel that we are building what will ultimately become one of our industry's most advanced mobile home park specific management companies. So we're super excited about that. And we're super excited just really about gaining back full control of our assets here. And I guess you could say it was a interesting experience over the last year to outsource a lot of our third-party management. However, we're very excited to bring it back in the house. It's been a fairly enduring venture here to build out the property management arm of our company, but we're excited to do so and looking forward to, again, having these assets back underneath our roof. And guys, moving on here, if you love what we're doing here, be sure to go take a moment, subscribe to the show, and leave a review and rating on iTunes. And like I do each and every week, I like to give a shout out to one of our listeners who has taken the time to leave that review. And this review is from Turtlehawk420, screen name Turtle Hawk 420. And they say, I've been listening to Kevin for around a year. It was actually Kevin that really sparked my interest in the podcast world. And boy, didn't that open Pandora's box. I've listened to dozens of different podcasts now and hundreds of different episodes. Kevin's is one of the very few podcasts that I have stayed subscribed to. He and his top quality guests give actionable information with plenty of wisdom nuggets across a wide spectrum of subjects that are useful for both the novice and seasoned investor. You've been producing quality content for a long time, Kevin. Keep up the great work. I'm going to hop on a phone call with you in the near future. Okay, well, that's awesome. So really appreciate that review, and absolutely look forward to jumping on a phone call with you as well. And thank you so much for taking the time to leave that very honest review. And guys, again, if you love what we're doing here, take a moment to go leave that review, and I'll be sure to give it a shout out in a future episode. Lastly, just want to remind you of the free 30-minute phone call, which is probably what he was referring to in this review. This is where you can go to my website, sign up, kevinbupp.com, and you and I can jump on a 30-minute call together to speak about anything your heart desires regarding real estate investing. Okay, I've spoken to hundreds of you over the last 4 or 5 years. We've been doing these calls, and hopefully look forward to connecting with you sometime in the future. So again, go to kevinbupp.com to schedule that call. And now, without further ado, let's get on to the part of the show that you've been waiting for, which is our show with Gary Green. So here we go. Alrighty, guys, it's my honor to introduce my guest for today's show, founder and CEO of Alliance Building Services, Gary Green. Gary, how you doing today?
Doing great. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Thanks for joining me here today, and very much looking forward to our conversation. So, Gary, for those folks that aren't familiar with you and your company, maybe if you would just take a few minutes and share a little bit of your background and ultimately how you got into this business.
Sure. So my background is, I graduated from University of Vermont in 1988, started business school about a year later at NYU, got my MBA at NYU in finance, and graduated into a recession. So looked around for some finance jobs, because that was my focus at NYU, and ended up working for the family business at the time, which was SL Green Realty, before they went public. So started a tenant rep division at SL Green, worked on management at SL Green, and this was the day and age before computers, when things were much different. and then started and worked there, and then started a cleaning company there with 8 cleaners at the basement of 800 2nd Avenue. And the reason I went into that business, I'll say we went into that business, it was me and my father, because we just weren't happy with the services the cleaning companies were providing, and we felt like they were charging very high prices at the time. So we decided to go in-house with the cleaning, and that was 1992. And then SL Green went public in 1997. We stayed private, and the Alliance Building Services continued to grow as SL Green grew, and we continued to grow as my relationships and our relationships in the real estate industry continued to grow, and we were able to really boost our portfolio up quite a bit to become the largest privately held company in the tri-state area, second largest overall. And and then 9/11 hit, and it affected everybody, and it was a pretty traumatic time for the city. We stepped in, and unfortunately, under these circumstances, but we tripled our security company in size overnight, and you couldn't hire enough security guards. And we had so many insurance claims that, as a result of the towers coming down, and it was a really emotional time. It was it was a tough time, and at that point our business was at a different level, and we grew as in a bittersweet way because of it. And then our growth continued throughout the 2000s, and in 2009 we were able to add the new Yankee Stadium and new Citi Field, and that was a whole nother level for us. In between all that, we coincidentally right before 9/11, we bought a security company about 4 months before. We also bought a messenger center company in the 2000s, painting, carpet, engineering, and metal and marble maintenance. So I've always had the attitude that it was easier to sell to an existing client than add a new client. So we've always tried to add services that we could sell to existing clients, and we've grown because of it. And since 2009, we've taken that Citi Field job and the Yankees, and we decided that you could almost have too much work. We decided to step aside from the Yankees. I'm a Mets fan, so we stayed with the Mets, and that's my favorite account, obviously. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. So that's kind of in a nutshell, Alliance Building Services, and from 1992 to 2019.
Fantastic. Well, just as a little side joke, I was having a conversation the other day with a really good friend and coworker about the Yankees and the Mets, and I don't know how we got on that topic, but I literally, until right now, I don't think I've ever personally known a Mets fan. So, congratulations. Yeah.
No. I wouldn't say in New York we're not extinct.
No.
There aren't many more Yankee fans.
What we were trying to figure out is there a certain concentration from individual boroughs where the Mets really gain their traction more than the Yankees, or is it just the intermix?
Absolutely. I think Long Island and Queens is more Mets. I think Connecticut, the Bronx, Westchester is more Yankees, but my father grew up a Brooklyn Dodger fan. And so if your family were Brooklyn Dodger fans or New York Giant fans, they grew up hating the Yankees, so you grew up hating the Yankees. So, so I'm a Mets fan, blue and orange. So, and then I have other baseball, fandoms that I have with the sports teams, but we'll get to that.
Yeah, I definitely want to get to that. That's a big part of this conversation today. But I want to make sure that we have absolute clarity for everyone that's listening in. Again, this isn't one of my typical interviews. You're not. I'm sure you have real estate investments, but you're not a real estate investor. That's what we're here to talk about today. We're talking about your business that you've built from basically the ground up over the years and into a very, very large profitable company. And so, just so we have absolute clarity, give us a general overview of the different services that you guys offer, because you kind of threw out a bunch of different types of companies you bought over the years,
sure.
Security and messaging and what have you, marble maintenance, and so there's a lot going on underneath this big umbrella that you have. And so, share a little bit more about that with us.
Sure. So, our core business is the cleaning company, Alliance Cleaning. So we clean various buildings throughout New York. Our structure is a little unique in that we will be a contractor in office buildings where we employ the cleaners, and then we charge the building owner back, and there's sales tax on top of that. But a lot of our business is this structure where we put the cleaners on the building's payroll. We legally are able to avoid the sales tax for the building owner, and we're able to run it more efficiently because they're the productivity maximums based on a contract like that versus the other way are just easier to get more productivity out of your workforce, and union's fine with it, and New York is a union city, and we have to pay attention to make sure that we're doing things that are in accordance with what they want, and it works. So we're able to generate lower insurance rates having the cleaners on the building's payroll versus the insurance rates that we have to pass through. So it's certainly not something that we have a patent on, but it's something that we do more of in New York City than anybody else. And we think for the owner that's willing to think a little bit more outside of the box, it's the best way to go outside of a straight contracting agreement. And then security. We have a security company. And originally Classic Security. Now it's just Alliance Security, and we employ guards all over the city. That we don't do in-house. That's just a straight contractor client relationship, and we just felt like when we were just a cleaning company, there were so many complaints from our clients about their security companies. We decided to step into that business and purchase a company in early part of 2001.
Simplest way to become an entrepreneur, right? Find a problem, find a solution, pair them together.
See a need, and it helps when you have the client. and it helps when you have the existing overhead too to be able to put that service into.
So how does that look as far as you mentioned your father? You guys kind of started this together, and obviously your father. We could speak about that a little bit, but I know that he was a very prominent building owner in New York, and so you had kind of a built-in client initially. And at what point in time did you decide to venture out away from the family's properties and start going out and getting outside business?
Oh, about 2 years into the process, we realized that there was a lot of, in 1994, we realized there was a lot of business out there. And, I had spent all my teenage years and 20s being friends with guys who eventually went out and started purchasing properties. And, we realized that we had this really cool way of doing things of taking the cleaners and putting on the building's payroll where, we could save our clients money. And so we came up with a marketing and campaign and strategy that and back then print was big and we were in Real Estate Weekly all the time, that we were going to do a lot of PR and advertising around our non-SL Green business that we won, so that people could say, hey, that's not just an SL Green business, and they see my last name and assume that, but we wanted to position ourselves as a non-SLG company. So that's what we did. And whenever we brought on new business from a third party, we took full page ads, and we did big announcements, and that's how we created our size in the marketplace with the third party business.
Okay, fantastic. So I want to just quickly hit on this. I was doing my research on you before we got on the phone here, and I ran across a quote that your father had made, and you're referencing SL Green. That's obviously your father, Stephen Green, and very, very prominent office building owner in New York. And he had a very profound perspective of, I guess, you and your brother, and the two of you's involvement in the family business. And maybe it was Wall Street Journal. I think that's maybe where I saw it, and it said, my philosophy was to let them have their own successes, and he didn't want your success to be tainted by anything referred to as SL Green, the name SL Green. And so I thought that was awesome. I'd love just to get your feedback on that. And it doesn't sound like you got handouts or anything of that nature. You had to build it from scratch. You had to put your own blood, sweat, and tears into it. It wasn't just handed to you in a silver spoon. And so I'd love to hear your thoughts on that, and maybe the general influence that your father being so successful had on your ultimate business successes, but also I'm sure there was also challenges that were created because of that as well, as you had mentioned, maybe trying to spin your name away, not just being associated with SL Green, kind of creating your own path as well. Would you mind speaking to that a little bit?
Sure. No, it's a great question, and I don't get asked it a lot, but it's a great question. So. Not easy growing up as part of a real estate name in New York. Most people, and this is not just me, I have a lot of friends who are in this position. Any kind of success or any type of thing that happens to you at work, the people, a lot of people are just going to think that you were lucky because you're born into the family. And when you're 20s and 30s and you're trying to build up your confidence, it's hard because you're trying to build up the confidence and show the world that you're different. And when people don't know your work effort or work ethic, and they don't know you, they're just going to assume that you were born into it. So that's difficult and was difficult. But at the same time, it created tremendous opportunity for me. So I got a lot of great experience working at SL Green when it was a privately held company. Mm-hmm. I got a lot of great experience working outside of SL Green when I went to work as a real estate broker at a firm that's no longer around called Abrams Benish Riker. I was also at a place called Riverbank Realty, led by Bruce Mosler, Mitch Konsker, Paul Glickman, and Mitty Lieberson. I'm sure these are names that your New York listeners know. And then going to work for the family business, and really I learned from my dad a lot just by being in meetings with him, mm-hmm. and seeing his intensity. And my dad would be the first one to say, and he tells me this all the time, that you just got to work harder than everybody else. And I'm not I don't think I'm smarter than everybody else. I think that if you just work harder and have a sense of timing, have a great sense of timing, and then when you have a great sense of timing, having the confidence in your gut to execute and move forward. There were many who tried to have REITs before 97, August of 97 and after. And, my dad will tell you he's not the smartest guy out there, but the strength of his convictions and to be able to execute and trust his gut is the reason why they were able to do in August 97 what a lot of people had tried to do before and tried to do after that. And most weren't successful.
Yeah, no, it's a great point. A lot of people think that there's a silver bullet or there's this magic pill of being successful. And really what it truly boils down to is being willing to work harder than anyone else in that room. And having the perseverance, and as you had mentioned, the confidence to do so, that if you got that good gut feel based on timing of an idea, what have you, of a business plan, of a business model, to run after it full speed ahead. So, and don't, sleep less, work harder, and make the sacrifices that others aren't willing to make. So, and I really, it's not as simple as that, but it kind of is, right?
I mean, I remember when I was working in the company and the International Design Center was a project that was in receivership, and SL Green was hired to kind of build it back up. And I was just starting out in the business, and they threw a stack of leases at me that was probably about this big. And they said, all right, your first job is to go and abstract these leases. And he knew exactly what he was doing. It was like, this is how you're going to learn a lease. Read 50 leases this summer, abstract them, and that's how you learn. So I could tell you that I had some moments of self-doubt looking out of the windows of Long Island City when Long Island City isn't what it is today, but I learned leasing, that's for sure.
Good deal. Well, I want to make sure that we don't run out of time, that we talk about some of your various baseball ventures. Obviously, you mentioned that you're a Mets fan, but you're not just a fan. I mean, you're deeply ingrained into the sport. I mean, I've got a little list here of your resume, and there's probably even more too that I don't have, but the principal owner of Baseball America, the CEO of Alliance Omaha Soccer Holdings, CEO and owner of AAA Omaha Storm Chasers, which is an affiliate of the Kansas City Royals. What else here? General partner of the AA Richmond Flying Squirrels and Montgomery Biscuits. I mean, I'm sure the list goes on and on a little bit. Talk to me about those different endeavors and your involvement in each.
Sure. So my partner and I, Larry Botel, we bought into the Richmond Flying Squirrels after looking around for a year for teams and nothing made sense. We met a boxing promoter named Lou DiBella. If there's any boxing fans out there, he's pretty big in the boxing business, who wanted to bring in some partners and move the team from Norwich, Connecticut to Richmond, Virginia. Again, we looked at the wrong deals for a year. So when the right deal came, we knew it and we pounced on it. Moved the team to Richmond, hired a fantastic management team, and renamed the team the Richmond Flying Squirrels. And within a year, this ownership group was voted Richmonders of the Year. And so we had only been there like half a dozen times or so, but we loved it. I got the bug then. So then we went out and started looking at another baseball deal. And the one that came along was a team in Omaha, Nebraska that was owned by Warren Buffett, partially owned by Warren Buffett. Huh. And we knew that if we were interested in the team, that we would get a meeting with Mr. Buffett. So I had never been to Omaha. I had never really been to the Midwest except for Chicago. And my thought was, hey, I'm going to be interested in this team because people pay $3 million for this meeting with Warren Buffett. I'm going to get the meeting. And then we'll figure out if it's going to work. So anyway, I had my meeting with Mr. Buffett. He didn't want to talk numbers. He just cared that I was a baseball fan. We met for 90 minutes. His team was the Cardinals. I was the Mets. We told different stories about our baseball experience. And when I walked out of there, I realized that he didn't care about the numbers or about negotiating a deal with me. He just cared that I was a baseball fan.
Yeah. That's awesome.
And we had about a half a dozen meetings, and each one was great. And he was great to have on board. He introduced me at the press conference when we closed in June of 2012. It was probably the greatest business moment of my life So it was, I get chills talking about it now.
That's awesome. I'm hoping you got a framed picture on the wall, right? Right behind you somewhere.
I over there in the waiting area. Yeah. And he's just such a cool guy, and he's I could tell stories for another hour here about our conversations and what makes him so unique and different. But everything you read about him is true. It's true. So anyway, he introduced me at the press conference. It's been 7 years since. Let's turn my ringer off here. It's been 7 years since we've owned the team, and we started to get a sense that about soccer in the community. And I'll just go into that. And we got presented with a soccer opportunity about 3 or 4 years ago, and I didn't know anything about soccer, and I knew a lot about Omaha. And so our first instinct was, okay, well, somebody's going to buy a soccer team here. We need to understand what our competition is going to be doing, because they're going to compete with us on Saturday nights. So we meet with the league, we contact them, and we start acting like we're working on a deal just to understand the competition. And then we started to realize that there was something there, and there was a real business model there. We started to talk about soccer in the Omaha community, hear about it, understand how popular it was. And we got to this point where we now have this USL team in League One, and we have a name. I can't tell you what it is because we're doing a brand reveal in front of 1,000 soccer fans in Omaha on October 3rd. But I'm very excited about that. It's going to be huge. And soccer, Division II and Division III soccer is taking over cities like Albuquerque, Tulsa, Des Moines, all over the country. And with the World Cup coming up, it's going to be huge.
Yeah. Obviously, a winning team's important, but talk to me about the branding side of it, or the rebranding side when you acquire these different teams.
Well, different scenarios. Richmond.
Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
No, it's okay. So Richmond, we had a new name. We had to develop a new name, and really the one lesson in team names is if the bloggers hate you, you've done a good job. So Richmond Flying Squirrels, we got crushed by the bloggers, and back then there was social media. It was 2008, but it was just starting out, and so Richmond Flying Squirrels has just been a huge success, and the flying squirrel is something that exists a lot in Virginia. It's not the only place in the world that it exists, but if you could have a flying angry squirrel that kind of looks like an angry bat, and any mascot that looks angry, I feel like sells, And we've done, we have phrases like "go nuts," and we have a mascot named Nutsy, and so that was great. In Omaha, the branding had happened before we got there, so there was really nothing for us to do except to move from the great job that they did in naming the team the Storm Chasers. So, so that's and we've developed some more mascots from there. So that was kind of two different scenarios.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I could feel the passion pouring through, this interview here. And so, it brings me to the next question. Obviously, you've built a very successful company. You've got your hands in all these different sports endeavors. I know that we can all agree that you've worked incredibly hard your entire life to get to where you're at. However, we all only have 24 hours in each day. How do you manage it? How do you manage it all efficiently?
That's a great question. Great question. Efficiency wise, I think you gotta, exercise, whether it's at the end of the day or the beginning of the day. There's nothing new there. I think this sounds crazy, but as soon as I started doing cryotherapy in the morning, that my days became a lot more productive, which is really works for me. It works for a lot of people. After 9/11,
every morning,
not every day, but I would say every other morning. Yeah. And it's great. It's great. Yeah. And it's a lot of this new age health and new age medicine with IVs and different things you can do that really can boost your energy level in a very healthy way. And I go into this place and I see a lot of 20s and 30 somethings. I don't see a lot of 50-year-old guys like me. So it's interesting. And really, after 9/11, everybody got spooked, and I decided I wasn't going to ride the subway anymore. And I just didn't feel comfortable doing it. I do now, but I ended up having a driver, and really just to having my office in the back of a car and being able to be productive without any downtime allows me to squeeze more out of each day. So yeah, that's kind of how I leverage the time during my day. And so many things have changed now with technology that if you could find an efficient place to work at home and quiet place to work at home in addition to the office, it really helps.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's the important factor there is finding those different downtimes where you can actually get a little bit done. You can squeeze something into where it's not just wasted time throughout the day. And I think that's a great thing about, with airlines now. Now you can truly work while you're on a flight, whereas before you're stuck either sleeping or watching a movie, right? So I think some of my most productive time that I have is when I'm traveling, which is quite often, that 2-hour flight, 2.5-hour flight. I feel like I get more done at focused time than I do the entire remainder of the day.
I do too, but I also watch a lot of movies during that time. That's my movie time.
Okay, fair enough.
My unplugged time, yeah.
Yeah, well, good deal. Well, Gary, this has been a lot of fun. Now I'd like to enter into what we call the lightning round. And so these are just really, really quick questions with short answers on your side. So let's get rolling with it.
Sure.
First and foremost, your biggest fear.
Biggest fear. I guess my biggest fear is the fear of not giving it my all and having regret at the end of it. So I guess my biggest fear is regret. And you only have regret when you didn't give your best. And I guess that's my biggest fear.
Got it. Okay. Well, that leads us into the next one, which is kind of perfect. Your one biggest regret.
Probably my biggest regret was somebody brought a deal to me as a minority investor to be a minority investor in the Red Bulls when they were starting out in the MLS, and I think the valuation was something like $5 or $10 million. Now the team's probably worth 250 or 300 million. So that's probably my biggest regret, but I wasn't in the sports business and I didn't have the knowledge. So it's a regret, but not a major regret.
Okay. How about most influential book?
I've there's a couple of them that I would say are influential. Malcolm Gladwell, anything that he writes is important to me, especially The Tipping Point. Mm-hmm. Something that I always speak of, and really a mantra that I think of every week, is that 10,000 hour rule. Mm-hmm. And whenever I'm doing something in sports, especially now, where it feels like it's monotonous or it feels like I'm not learning something, I think of the 10,000 hour rule, and that I'm going to become an expert just by putting in the hours. And whether it's 10,000 hours, that's just symbolic, but the more hours you put in, the more you learn a business. And I've had to come into this business at the age of 45 when I started, and I was, working with guys and competing with guys that were started in their 20s. So I had a lot of catching up to do. So I decided I was just going to work as hard as I can, read as much as I can, spend as much time talking to people. And so the Gladwell concept of 10,000 hour rule was really important to me. I also, Bill Veeck's autobiography is something that is great. He was the ultimate owner and really created so much about minor league baseball and major league baseball that he was really a path changer and a game changer and a path burner. Mm-hmm. So that's on the books. That's kind of what I think on the books.
How about the one thing you can't live without?
The one thing I can't live without. Okay. I would say the MLB app. And, MLB app, cryotherapy. And, I have to say my wife because she'll watch this. So.
Yeah. Good for you. Smart man.
Right. Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
How about the one most rewarding?
Okay.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of something else I can't live without.
I think we'll keep
ahead.
your wife there. We'll just make that as the number one. How about the one most rewarding part of being an entrepreneur? What's your one favorite thing about being an entrepreneur?
The most rewarding part about being an entrepreneur, I would say the ability to change lives by one, employing people, and on the cleaning and building security side, and the building maintenance side, really the employing people is really what to me gave me the most exciting part of it, knowing that when I went home at 4:00 and ended my day, there were thousands of people in the field that were working for Alliance Building Services that I was providing a living to, and that, I felt very responsible for that. And that really gave me a great high from that, and seeing their kids and their wives sometimes. I really enjoyed that. As on the sports side, sure, employing people and making a difference in their lives, it's not to the same scale that Alliance Building Services was and is, but it's more the fans and making a difference for them and bringing a smile to their face and creating childhood memories and memories as parents. And, the common line in minor league baseball is we're not in the sports business, we're in the memory making business. And that's what we try to do. The baseball is the backdrop. We create the carnival and the circus and the fun so that they can enjoy baseball and just enjoy everything that goes around it as well.
Yeah. Not to get off track here, I had the opportunity at a conference a couple months ago meeting the owner of the Savannah Bananas. Are you familiar with those guys?
Love that. Love Jesse. I love Jesse. Yeah, Jesse's a great guy.
What a lively spirit he is. He's awesome. So
he's somebody that's that I look to. He's younger, but I look to and what he's doing. And, I take note of what he's doing because he's doing a lot of things right. And we just did a nice write-up for him in Baseball America.
He's a brilliant marketer, absolutely brilliant marketer. I love everything. I haven't been to one of their games, but I had the opportunity of spending some time with him, a couple hours with him at a recent conference. And just a wonderful human being he is, and very, very, very intelligent.
He's awesome, and he's invited me down. I didn't get there this summer, but I'm going to go to Savannah next summer to see a game.
Okay. Last lightning round question. What would your plan be if one day you decided that you no longer want to be a business owner?
I haven't really thought of that because I don't see that ever happening.
Yeah.
I will. I was just saying this to somebody the other day. I think that always being part of a sports team, I will have to do that the rest of my life. I always need to be part of something, and I am a huge Mets fan, and we have that account, and I'll always be part of that. But I really always need to be part of some type of sports organization, whether it be soccer or baseball.
Okay, fantastic. Well, that was awesome, Gary. And again, lots of great information you've shared here today. And now I'd like to enter what we call the Golden Nugget segment. This is where we're going to work to wrap things up here. And what I'd like to ask of you is if you just had one final Golden Nugget of advice or wisdom that you could leave with our listeners today that may inspire and motivate them as they progress in their real estate or business career, what would that one last Golden Nugget be?
Okay. All right. No, it's a good question. If you're in your 20s, teens, 20s, or early 30s, I would say make as many mistakes as possible so that you could learn. You learn the most from your mistakes. You learn what career you want to choose by eliminating those that you don't want to do. That's what worked for me. But the mistakes that you made in your teens, 20s, and 30s are the least expensive and least costly ones you'll make. But don't be afraid to put in the time, put in those 10,000 hours. And just really, put in the time and you'll figure it out sooner or later. For people my age in their 50s and again, I listened to a friend's wife's podcast when she spoke at TED Talks, and this was a great nugget of wisdom. And it was a woman in her 50s who, has older kids, is when you're in your 50s, you have the capital, you have the work experience, you have the experience of balance of having kids and work and figuring out balance. Like, don't think that just because you're in your 50s, that the game is over, or that you're not at your peak performance. You're not only at your peak performance, but you're at your peak experience. And I hate it when people say 50 is the new something or other. But I heard this TED talk, and it was and what she said crystallized everything that I believe in. So that's a 50-year-old nugget and a 20-year-old nugget.
Yeah, no, I love it. So I'm only 40, but I don't feel any diffryent today than when I did when I was 20. You know,
I have no advice for you. I have no advice.
Yeah, yeah. No, cryotherapy thing is good though. I've done it a few times. I'd love to have a machine in my home. That would be I've never even thought of that.
I know, right?
Doing it every day. Fantastic. What a great way to wake up in the morning, right? I mean, get rejuvenated and just a burst of energy. So for those that haven't done that, they need to go out and actually try it. I mean, it's actually affordable now. I mean, you can find the machines just about anywhere. I'm not in a major city like Gary is. I mean, I'm in the Tampa, Florida area, and I think we've probably got 7 or 8 centers around the Tampa Bay area. So not that hard to find any longer. So Gary, where can we find you? What's the best website to reach at? As far as more
my Twitter
and what it is you do.
Okay, so yeah, I have a Wikipedia page, and that's under Gary Green, baseball owner. I have my Twitter page is @ChasersOwner, and my Instagram is @ChasersOwner1, and that's the best spot to find me.
Okay. Well, fantastic. Well, Gary,
Yep.
Yeah, no, this has been absolutely amazing. Really, thank you again for joining us here today. This has been lots of great information that you've shared, lots of wonderful life experiences, and looking forward to following you. I'm going to make sure that we follow your progress here in the baseball world and see all the cool things that you have going on with your different teams. And hopefully until we talk again, you keep doing great things and making wonderful things happen, my friend.
All right. Well, thank you. Great questions. Enjoyed the interview, and look forward to hearing it.
Congratulations! Now you've got more of the best tricks of the trade in building massive amounts of passive income from real estate. For more amazing resources, visit realestateinvestingforcashflow.com, and we'll see you next Monday morning.